But first, here's a Fox News alert. Right now, President Trump is monitoring events in Iran from Bedminster, New Jersey, where overnight U.S. forces pelted Iranian military logistics infrastructure and also their underground weapons storages. Alex Hogan is live in Bridgewater, New Jersey with the very latest. Hi, Alex.
Hi, Aisha. So President Trump is here in New Jersey this weekend at his Bedminster Golf Club. It comes as the U.S. and Iran exchange new rounds of fire just in the last day. And it comes as President Trump says he's keeping his options open, and he will continue to strike Iranian targets, especially as this conflict continues. It comes as American forces have carried out a week of consecutive strikes on Iranian military targets. Today, Central Command says that it hit surveillance sites, military logistics infrastructure, underground weapons storage, and maritime capabilities. The White House yesterday denied Iranian claims that the U.S. has hit civilian infrastructure and that U.S. naval blockade in the Strait of Hormuz remains in effect. Iran today has carried out attacks on U.S. allies in the Middle East. Officials in Kuwait say that a water desalination plant and an oil facility were hit. Iran's new supreme leader just today says that the U.S. has repeatedly breached commitments and that Trump's signature on a deal would be, quote, worthless. Before coming here to New Jersey, President Trump last night attended a FIFA reception at Trump Tower, New York City, celebrating the World Cup. Trump said that the U.S. should host a future World Cup on its own without Mexico and Canada. He joked that it could be in partnership with China. He also said that it's been an honor to share the U.S. with countries from around the world.
This has been far beyond a sporting event. This has been something very, very special. So good luck to Spain and Argentina on Sunday, and may the best team win.
And President Trump is expected to attend that final at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey tomorrow. Now, back here, it is pouring rain behind me, Aisha, so it is not a good day at the golf club. However, this rain at least could be providing some relief from the heavy smoke that we have been seeing in the region because of those Canada wildfires. And President Trump just yesterday on Truth Social argued that Canada should be paying for some of the damages, at least through these Canadian tariffs. Aisha.
Okay, Alex Hogan live for us. Alex, following the president, thank you very much. For more, let's bring in Fox News contributor and former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Secretary, great to have you.
Great to be with you.
I want to start with what's happening overseas and these strikes overnight. I think we were in the 7th consecutive night of strikes against Iranian key targets, military targets, but the Iranians have also been fighting back. There were heavy strikes on the Jordanian airbase, and we don't know the results of that yet from the U.S. military or the White House, but there have been 13 soldiers injured so far. Give me your assessment of how this campaign is going and how the escalation you think has played out this week.
Well, Aisha, I think it's really important to understand this in the context of 47 years of war. The Iranians have declared that they wanted to destroy Israel and the United States since the revolution in 1979. And so while we talk about 7 days or Epic Fury last summer or October 7th even, this is a long-standing threat against the United States of America. And President Trump, every night for the last week, has diminished their capacity to kill Americans. And that is a really good thing. It's not easy. There's risk to our military that's in the region, as you can see from the strikes even at air bases today. But I also think it makes it unbelievably plain to the world that you have to win this. That means you have to take down Iran's capacity to inflict pain and terror all across the world through its proxies, through its missile system, and of course, as President Trump often reiterates, through its threat of nuclear weapons.
So we are hitting key infrastructure, bridges, I think power infrastructure too. The White House is saying that it's not affecting civilian infrastructure, though this is all military targets. And there's been a lot of talk about Karg Island being next and whether or not that is going to involve ground troops, boots on the ground. What do you think about Karg Island, and do you think that that should happen sooner rather than later?
Oh, goodness, we should. So Karg Island is a central facility through which the Iranians move their petroleum products, and a very important node for transportation for them. I don't know if President Trump will choose to do that, to control Karg Island for an extended period of time. It is the case that you would have to put somebody on the ground, whether it's Americans or others that go do that task. But we can diminish Karg's capacity. We can take down the Iranians' ability to generate money. And without money, what we know is, in the end, the Iranian regime will collapse. It will fail. I don't know if that's 2 months or 2 years, but I know this. An Iranian regime controlled by the IRGC and Vadi, the guy who's running the joint today, that regime is not going to capitulate. It's not going to sign a deal. I've heard some say that they've turned over a new leaf. They think what they've done for the last 47 years is wrong. Don't believe it for a second. These folks are determined, and they're going to have to be met with real American. And now, as you can see, they're firing on their Muslim brothers all throughout the region through Gulf state responses as well.
But I think Americans are wanting, you know, obviously the Republican Party, the president himself. I think everybody wants this to get wrapped up as quickly as possible and not turn into a forever war. I want to read this to you. This is the New York Times on Thursday. They wrote, in Iran, Trump risks another American forever war. Even the most sophisticated military forces are not enough if there's no strategy to turn battlefield superiority into lasting political and diplomatic success. Mr. Trump faces the added challenge of trying to win using only air and sea power without politically unpalatable use of ground troops on Iranian soil. So there has been a lot of back and forth recently on what the strategy is. Is it use of force? Is it diplomatic conversations? And I tend to think it's both. I think that the president is going about this with the carrot and the stick, doing two things at once, Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance, both of them, until he gets a deal. How do you see it?
Yes, I think that's right. And I think the New York Times is a leftist rag that has no sense of American national security and couldn't give a rip about it. And so I pay little heed to what they're saying. Look, sign me up. I don't want a forever war either. Sadly, our adversaries do get to play their hand. And they get to play their hand until such time as we have done exactly what you just discussed. We've used our military capacity. We've inflicted military and economic harm on them sufficient to give us the opportunity to have a diplomatic solution. And that diplomatic solution will look very much like President Trump talked about. It will look like surrender. They're not going to sign an MOU or a complex deal, just like with the ridiculous JCPOA. They're going to violate everything they sign. This will take a change in the nature of the regime, and this will be hard fought. And I'm confident that we will have allies throughout the region that if we're determined and we demonstrate our resolve, they'll be right alongside of us in every element of that, diplomatically, economically, and militarily.
Okay. Secretary Mike Pompeo, always a pleasure to have you on. Great insight. Thank you very much, sir.
Bless you. Have a good day.
You too.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.